Today's number scope is 77. This number represents the need to understand that being single is a blessing in disguise. In our society, we always look to others to fulfill us and to provide us with the necessary happiness and joy that everyone wants and everyone deserves. But when we rely on others and things outside of ourselves to create that for us, then we put ourselves in a trap that we're always looking for satisfaction in external circumstances and things, people, whatever that may be. And so when those things are no longer in our lives for whatever reason, we lose loved ones to death. I'm going to be doing a series soon on preparing. It's going to be demystifying the death card in tarot, Dios de los Muertos. Hopefully I'm saying that right. That is pretty much Mexico. They celebrate, this is the Day of the Dead. They're celebrating their ancestors. And a good movie to watch is Coco. It talks more about that. It's like a animation, but it's really good. It's a cartoon. It's really not a biography. It's a cartoon, but it explains that really well. And the Egun. So the Egun is from the Yoruba culture in West Africa, like Nigeria, Benin, those areas. And it's also the ancestors. So usually when you're talking about death, people, especially like in tarot, you see that card, people just get freaked out. Dios de los Muertos, people that don't understand that. It's like, oh my God, that's evil. They have these skeleton masks on. What are they doing? Because this is this whole celebration, but it's a part also of a similar day in the Catholic Church that runs around that same time, like the end of October, and actually it coincides to our Halloween, and so it runs from like the end of October to, I believe, like the first few days or first couple days of November. So a lot of times when people think of death, it's scary because why? You're losing something. A lot of times that person is no longer there, especially if it's a spouse or someone that's really close to you, a sibling or a child. It can create a lot of anxiety. So when we tune in to ourselves, that allows us to connect with God without those distractions that we typically use to avoid being able to handle life without the presence of things. Think about, I don't want to correlate this to a time. Sometimes people don't have a choice of being on their own. It was I don't know his name, but a man that was not incarcerated, but in solitary confinement. It was in Louisiana. It was a case that was handled by, I believe, the Innocence Project. And he was and I still think today, set the record. Of course, nobody wants to set this record, but it was the longest. He was the person that stayed was confined to solitary confinement, anyone in the United States. So no one had ever been in solitary confinement this long. But it was interesting because during this time, you would think that all the things that he went to, he talked about all the things that happened, and it was just a terrible experience. He's older now and he's free now. They were able to get to help him to free himself, through the legal process. And the clarity of thought, he even wrote a book. The clarity of thought, the peacefulness of this man is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But he said he used that prison cell almost like, I think he used the word college, or this was his learning place. This is what he used he didn't let the prison, he said, hold him, for lack of better words, his mind. So it's really interesting to see him speak because, he doesn't have a person that dealt with all these injustices. Seem like they would just be full of just anger and revenge and all these things. But the most peaceful man, I even got a good recipe from him. I love, what was he said, his favorite meal? I was like, that's my favorite. I love that meal too. Cream corn. It might be a Southern thing. I don't know. Cream corn, smoked sausage, and rice. And I'm like, yes, but cream, I never thought to put them all together. I love smoke. So I was like, that is a great menu. That's a great dinner. But anyways, he was talking about, I think somebody was asking, he's from Louisiana. They have a lot of, that's where we get our gumbo, jambalaya, all those different meals. So they have a lot of good cooking out there. So the person that was interviewing was asking him what his favorite meal was. Wasn't something elaborate like, oh, lobster and crab. It was like smoked sausage, rice and corn. And I'm like, yes, But anyways, it just shows that he spent decades, not just by himself, but solitary confinement in a cell. Of course, the majority of us will never, and hopefully none of us ever, because hopefully they put things in place to make that cannot happen anymore. Person can be put in solitary confinement. That is ridiculous for that period of time. And even there's organizations that are working on getting rid of solitary confinement, period, because they say it's inhumane. Like when you think about internationally, certain things that we do in the United States, they consider to be inhumane in an international, like in the UN and the United Nations. These things are inhumane that we still do in the United States, and that is one of those things. But anyway, saying that to say I kind of took a tangent. The Numberscope today is 77, which in numerology, some people, they do master numbers for any multiples of a number. So whether it's 77, 88, those are considered master numbers. I typically just consider master numbers to be, like in Western numerology, 11, 22, and 33. But some would consider the 77 to be a master number, but I don't. So that would equate to a numerology number 5. And that number 5 is a lot of times is considered to be this freedom, freedom loving, just kind and hard to pin down. And sometimes that could be looked at in a negative way, but it's also very positive, because this is also a time where being alone can allow you to explore, adventure, get out and see the world. I know we're in COVID, so we have to be careful of certain things that we do, but being able to experience new things. So, if you, have recently lost, significant other, whether that be through divorce, death, separation, or if it's by choice, just know, because sometimes you get shamed sometimes by the community, because, marriage is kind of like this epitome of social, almost like social goodness. But, you can be by yourself, and that gives you time to connect more with spirit, God, how whatever your name and word you give to the Creator, it gives you more of an opportunity to connect with the Creator and to develop your spirituality. So, that's that number 7. That is just a lot of religions, at least the Christianity, I know 77 is of 7 itself, just a single number 7. This is just a really spiritual number. And even in numerology, is considered to be a very spiritual number. So when you look at that combination, it's very spiritual. This is a time, and this number represents a time for you to focus on the relationship you have with God. Today's Numberscope is 77. This number represents the need to understand that being single is a blessing in disguise. In our society, we always look to others to fulfill us and to provide us with the necessary